Hi, I'm Allie, and today I will be presenting on the film Beans by Tracy Deer. Today I will be discussing Beans, a 2020 feature film directed by Mohawk filmmaker Tracy Deer. Beans is a powerful coming-of-age drama that is centered around a young girl named Takahen Takwa that is nicknamed Beans, and is set during the real-life events of the 1990 Oka Crisis. The Oka Crisis it was a 78-day standoff between the Mohawk people and the Canadian government over contested native land. What makes this film especially impactful is that it is based on Deers' own childhood experiences growing up in the Mohawk community during that period. The film is more than a political story, it's a personal reflection on identity, trauma, and growth. Through Beans' eyes, we see how a child's understanding of the world shifts under pressure from systematic violence and racism. It's a film that speaks deeply to the themes of Native resistance, colonialism, and survivance. Tracy Deer is a Mohawk director from the Kanawaki Reserve in Quebec. She's one of the most prominent Indigenous filmmakers in Canada and has a background in both documentary and narrative storytelling. Her work often explores issues of Native identity, community belonging, and the impacts of colonial structures on Native lives, particularly the lives of women and young children. Before making the film Beans, she directed the documentary Club Native in 2008, which investigated blood quantum laws and the challenges of maintaining identity and belonging within Mohawk communities. That film exposed how colonial imposed systems continue to fracture Native communities from within. Beans marked her transition into dramatic feature filmmaking, but she brings the same documentary honesty and emotional depth. By drawing directly from her own life, she provides a lens that is both authentic and deeply vulnerable, which is part of what makes Beans so emotionally effective. Beans was released in 2020 and premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, where it won the second place People's Choice Award, which was a major achievement for the first narrative feature. It went on to be widely praised for its honest and urgent portrayal of Native youth during a time of political unrest. The film takes place during the Oka Crisis, which occurred in the summer of 1990 in Quebec. The crisis began when the town of Oka announced plans to expand a golf course onto the Mohawk burial land, which was a move that sparked outrage and protest. The Mohawk community members, including many women and children, built barricades and refused to leave their land. What followed was a months-long military standoff between Mohawk land defenders and the Canadian government. Tracy Deer was just 12 years old at the time, which is the same age as Beans in the movie, and the events left a lasting impact on her. In many ways, the film is her attempt to process those memories and show the long-term effects on violence and resistance on Native youth and families. Visually, Beans is incredibly effective at balancing the personal and the political. We see Beans in her everyday life, teasing her sister, biking through her neighborhood, and trying to get into a better school. But that sense of normal is quickly shattered and taken away when the protests begin and the presence of military violence enters her community. The handheld camera work and natural lighting create a feeling of realism, as though we are experiencing events in real time. At several key moments, Deer cuts in real historical news footage from the Oka Crisis. These documentary clips remind the audience that the violence shown in the film isn't just exaggerated, it's reality. The sound design is incredibly powerful. The film often uses silence or loud music to let emotions build naturally. One of the most disturbing scenes was when the white civilians attacked the Mohawk family's car with rocks. During that scene, it was almost as silent except for the terrifying thuds of the rocks hitting the car and Beans' screams. These audio choices intensified the emotional weight of the scene and let us feel the fear and powerfulness she experiences. This approach to storytelling of blending fiction with real footage and contrasting innocence with violence pulls us deeper into Beans' emotional world. One of the most effective aspects of Beans is how it functions as both a personal narrative and a political statement. By framing the film through the eyes of a 12-year-old girl, Deer invites us to witness these traumatic events through a lens of innocence and confusion. This is what makes the film so emotionally powerful. We're not just watching history, we're feeling it unfold through a child's mind. The format forces viewers to confront hard questions. We see Beans trying to grow up, navigating friendships, family tensions, and dreams of upward mobility, all while surrounded by threats of violence, racism, and pressure to act strong. There's one particularly intense moment when she hears her parents fighting about whether to stay on the barricades or leave to protect their children. This tension between survival and resistance is one of the film's key emotional conflicts. Beans also begins to experiment with identity. She mimics older girls, swears, and even becomes briefly involved with the bad crowd. These scenes don't exactly portray her as bad, but as someone that is grasping for control in a world that's constantly disempowering her. Her rebellion is really about reclaiming her voice. The format makes us not just observers, but emotionally engaged participants. It asks us, what would I do if I were Beans? Would I fight, hide, or would I just break down? Colonialism is a core theme in Beans. It's not just shown in the broader context of land disputes, but it's embedded in daily life. The Oka Crisis represents the latest chapter in a long history of colonial land theft and native dispossession. What's particularly powerful in the film is how violence plays out on a personal level. When we see armed soldiers pointing rifles at unarmed women and children, or when we hear racist slurs shouted out by white residents, it becomes clear that colonialism isn't just historical, it's ongoing and still going. The Mohawk community is criminalized simply for protecting their land. This shows how colonial power structures are upheld not by the state but by just ordinary citizens. Beans also learns about her family's history. Her father tells her about previous betrayals and the importance of standing together. This intergenerational storytelling reinforces that colonialism impacts every generation, but also that knowledge and pride can be passed down as tools of resistance. The Mohawk community's resistance is one of the film's most powerful elements. We see people holding the line against overwhelming odds, building barricades, protecting one another, and refusing to back down. This isn't just political, but it's a defense of identity, family, and the right to exist on one's own land. Bean's personal resistance develops gradually. At first, she's timid and uncertain, but as she witnesses the injustice of her people, she finds her voice. Her growth symbolizes what survivance really means. That it's not just surviving, but actively asserting Native presence, values, and strength. By the end of the film, Beans is no longer just reacting to events, she's making choices. She confronts her fears, stands up for her sisters, and refuses to let colonial systems define who she is. This transformation of Beans is the emotional heart of the film. Through the film, Beans wrestles with her identity, and it is very real and in painful ways. She wants to be accepted into a prestigious school and be seen as a smart and successful girl, but she also sees that the world outside her community views her people as violent. She begins to internalize shame and fear, wondering whether being Mohawk will limit her opportunities. This internal struggle is one that many Native children face, the pressure to leave parts of themselves behind to be accepted. The film directly challenges stereotypes. It doesn't simplify or romanticize any of its characters. Beans isn't perfect by any means, but she's confused, scared, angry, but she's also kind, brave, and smart. The film shows us that Native people are not just victims or protest symbols, but they are full, complex human beings. Watching Beans had a big impact on how I understand the themes we studied in this course. It made colonialism and resistance feel personal and real, not just abstract or historical, but something still happening today. It also helped me see how storytelling can be a form of activism. Tracy Deer uses film to reclaim her own story and to honor the resilience of her people. It reminded me that Native media isn't just about representation, it's about sovereignty, education, and healing. As someone learning about these issues, Beans challenged me to think deeper about what solidarity looks like and how I can carry these lessons forward.